This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at McCabe Law of Portland, Maine. McCabe Law is the go-to firm when you need help with legal cannabis business licensing, real estate transactions, compliance, risk management, investment advice, strategic decision-making, and local and state government relations. They have a national view with a focus on the Maine and Massachusetts markets. If you need help getting your legal marijuana business started or making it bigger, then you should get in touch with the pros over at McCabe Law of Portland, Maine. Just open up McCabeLawLLC.com to learn more about all the services they provide and to get in touch with Principal Chris McCabe. That's McCabeLawLLC.com, which is spelled MCCABE LawLLC.com. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Friday, August 24th, 2018, and you're tuned in to episode 557 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We wrap up the week with a heavy focus on Massachusetts, which grabbed all three of our top stories today. Leading off our troika of Bay State headlines is a piece by Dan Adams over in the Boston Globe examining the issue of so-called host community agreements, which are the contracts between towns and cities and the legal marijuana businesses hoping to operate within their bounds. Massachusetts state law requires that any legal cannabis business secure a host community agreement before it can become fully licensed. Towns and cities are allowed to require fees and percentages of sales from marijuana businesses, though state law also requires that those agreements are capped at 3% of a company's annual revenue and that they're limited to 5 years. There's been a lot of criticism within the industry over that requirement, especially when there have been a number of agreements signed that go above and beyond the 3% of revenue and the 5-year horizon. Dan Adams and his team at the Globe analyzed several dozen community host agreements and found that nearly all break state law by asking more of cannabis companies than they should. This is a big issue in the state, so I'd open up Dan's piece for the full dive in. Our second story is tied right in with our first, as the Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission voted yesterday by a count of 4-1 against a plan that would have required host community agreements to be approved by the commission. Commission member Shalene Title, who I should point out is an on-hiatus regular on our weekly podcast, Marijuana Today, and a good friend of the show, pushed for the requirement that the agreements be reviewed to ensure that they don't overstep state law. Right now, all that's required of the commission to review is that the agreements are signed. In voting against the plan to review the agreements, the other 4 members of the commission cited questions over their authority to do so, as well as the amount of time it would take. That's another one I'd open up today. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Wrapping up our all Massachusetts top headlines, we have a bit of good news. At the same meeting yesterday at which the Cannabis Control Commission voted to keep their hands off host community agreements, they did give the official nod to the state's first 2 testing labs to spool up operations. CDX Analytics and MCR Labs will soon provide a vital link in the Massachusetts legal cannabis supply chain, which mandates that all commercial products be properly tested ahead of sale. There's no clear date by which marijuana will be available to adult use customers in Massachusetts, but at least now we know that the chain is complete. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before I blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, McCabe Law of Portland, Maine. The world of legal marijuana business is super exciting, but equally as dynamic with tons of uncertainty and risk. That's why it's vital that you cross all the right legal T's and dot all necessary I's. The best way to make sure you check all the right boxes on your business to-do list is to hire a group of pros like the folks over at McCabe Law of Portland, Maine. They can help you with all kinds of things, from getting your business started to figuring out where it's going to be located and getting all the right permits to open up. I'm actually a client of McCabe Law myself, having used them to incorporate MJ Today Media LLC. Just open up McCabeLawLLC.com to learn more about all the legal services they provide and to learn learn how to get in touch. That's McCabeLawLLC.com, which is spelled MCCABE LawLLC.com. Big thanks to everyone over at McCabe Law for the support that makes today's news possible. All right, time for the Blitz. Marijuana Business Daily is a good longer form piece up looking at the somewhat dismal shape the California legal cannabis consumer market is in right now in parts of the state as high prices and low diversity in available stock conspire to frustrate consumers. Joey Pena writes that negative reviews are popping up for California dispensaries by consumers upset about paying prices for cannabis that far exceed their options on the illicit market, with some shops selling eighths of flower for $50 before taxes, which can add upward of 40% more to the price. In addition, the high cost of complying with the new rules for testing that went into place in July have cut the number of products available on store shelves. Another one I'd open up to read today. The Office of New Jersey Attorney General Gurbir Grewal is expected to soon issue guidance to the state's prosecutors, saying that they now have complete discretion in deciding whether to charge people with low-level marijuana crimes. That follows an announcement last month that ordered prosecutors to stop prosecutions entirely until early September, while the issue is studied more. Marijuana Moments' Kyle Yeager picked up on a study by researchers at Victoria University and Harvard University that found that the state of California saw a 20% reduction in violent and property crime following the legalization of medical marijuana. While the study doesn't claim that legalizing medical marijuana caused that dip in crime, it does support the hypothesis that legalization hasn't increased crime in California. Either way, it provides a lot of interesting angles for follow-up study. A good one to click through to read for yourself. The Wall Street Journal dips into the cannabis pool with a story about California's developing legal marijuana supply chain, which has a unique set of constraints within to develop, as it straddles both state and federal law. On a day heavy with stories you should open up in full, I tossed this one on the pile to read. Earlier this month, the cannabis media company High Times Holdings announced that it would be accepting the cryptocurrencies Bitcoin and Ethereum during its upcoming initial public stock offering. But as Marijuana.com noticed, a follow-up filing with the Securities Exchange Commission by High Times rescinded that offer, with CEO Adam Levine telling Marijuana.com, quote, "There is a little issue with Bitcoin," unquote. Chris Roberts at Marijuana Moments has a good write-up of developments in Alaska for the prospects of legal marijuana consumption lounges, which is a very long-running storyline here on The Daily. After many starts and stops, it appears that the Alaska Marijuana Control Board feels comfortable enough to propose new regulations that would allow dispensaries to offer space for customers to consume small amounts of cannabis on site. The board will accept public comments on the proposed rules through November 1st and will hold a public hearing on the matter at a meeting on December 19th. Mark your calendars if that's in your domain. And finally for this week, we end with a quiz question. Can you name the 3 U.S. states that have enacted exactly 0 progressive cannabis measures? I'm talking no adult use, no medical, no nothing. There are 3 states that haven't touched cannabis law, which is pretty remarkable. Okay, time's up. Those 3 states are Idaho, Kansas, and South Dakota. Thanks to Phil Lavelle over at CGTN for that quick check-in. Those are the headlines for the day. I'll be back with you again Monday morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at MJ Today Daily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, McCabe Law LLC, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.